even though I had just read The Diary of Anne Frank and finished it, it had been lost on me how badly she wanted to be a writer. She studied her craft relentlessly, even in the confines of the secret annex. She didn't give up on high school. She didn't give up on her education, even though she had every single right to. Instead, what she wrote is, I finally realized that I must do my schoolwork to keep from being ignorant, to go on in life, to become a journalist, because that's what I want. And over and over and over in her diary, she writes about how she wants to be a writer more than anything in the world. And she wonders if she's good enough. Like, it's not even, will I survive? She keeps on living and just asks, can I ever be talented enough to be a writer? Which I think any creative person can kind of identify with, is you feel this thing that you want to do and you're constantly berating yourself, wondering like, but am I ever going to be good enough? That's what Anne Frank asked. And so you go through this museum where I realized, oh, wow, I don't know how I missed it, but she really wanted to write. And then you go into the secret annex where she lived. So I kind of want to take you on a little tour of the secret annex with me. So to enter, you ascend the same steep staircase that Anne went into when she was in hiding. And to describe it, it's kind of feels more like a ladder. Like it's very narrow and very steep to get up there. And at the top of the stairs, there's a movable bookcase that her father had built to the entrance to obscure their hiding place. Then after the steep claustrophobic climb, you enter a small bedroom where Anne's mother, father, and sister all slept at night, and then wordlessly converted to a living room during the day because they had to remain silent and move as little as possible so they didn't alert anyone to their existence. As I inched around, because as you go through the rooms, it's something like 400 square feet of space for two families. I think it's something like 9 people in this really small confined space. I felt myself becoming more depressed and angry. Anne Frank was not an abstraction. She was a little girl who was murdered, along with her family and 6 million other families. And honestly, I had to wonder, what had all this hiding and all this suffering been for? The family lived for 2 years like caged animals, only to be discovered on August 4th, 1944, only 2 months before the war ended. Can you believe that? That 2 months, if they would have had 2 months, they might have survived the Holocaust. What had it all been for? What I thought was that Anne was powerless, that she had no options, and she had just been a victim. Overwhelmed by a sense of anger and disgust, I felt like I might throw up. I started crying. I had to get out of the annex. And so, frenzied, walking back through the museum quickly, I stopped at a display only to catch my breath. And at the display, there was these big words plastered on the wall, which I looked up and saw almost accidentally. And they were Anne's words from her diary. What she said was, I'll make my voice heard. I'll go out into the world and work for mankind. I paused. My whole life paused. These words fell into me as I realized how wrong I had just been. Imprisoned, fearing for her life, subjugated as non-human, literally locked out of the daylight, Anne Frank still insisted on her power, on her light, on her individual life, identity, and her pride in being exactly who she was. She could have given up on her dream to write, and in those circumstances, who would have blamed her? But instead, she had chosen every single day to live. She claimed her agency and her honor, and she honored her desire to write. Sure, she was only one person making one choice in limited circumstances, but how much had the entire world benefited from her one choice?